Welcome, everyone. This is Dara, and you are watching Design to Win. Today, I have a special guest with me, friend of mine that I've known for a few years, just a few, but probably about 30 years.
Yes.
Um, and this friend of mine, her name is Stephanie Gallardo. Got it right. Sounds
Got
right.
it.
And we just decided to get together today because Stephanie and I have something in common. We have raised children who have dealt with learning differences. And so we had a conversation about getting together and just talking about the experiences that we've gone through and what we've dealt with raising our children and going through the public school systems or just the school systems, because Stephanie has actually been a homeschool mom for several of her kids for a long time. And then she had one that she felt like needed to go into another school setting to get a little bit more help. Is that right, Stephanie? Yep.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So we're just going to kind of talk about what she's dealt with and what she has worked with and learned and grown through her experience. And anyway, I'm just going to let Stephanie introduce herself a little bit and kind of talk about herself and her family and her kids have experience with learning differences. So,
Okay. Thank you, Dara. Yes. So Stephanie Gallardo, and I have three sons. My oldest is 27, my middle one's 24, and my youngest is 13. And so also have a husband that deals with ADHD. So my middle son was diagnosed with ADHD, and now my younger one has that plus some other learning disabilities. So I do have some experience in walking with each of them through this journey to try to manage their life and work and school. And it's not been easy.
Stephanie, tell me, you have two children that have been diagnosed with a learning difference. And your middle child, I know you homeschooled your older two children all the way through. Is that right? Through school or most of it?
So my middle son, I homeschooled most of it. He did some, there's a school here in Lubbock, Kingdom Prep Academy.
Mhm.
And so he went there some part time. You can choose, it's a university model school. So we did some of his classes there, which when he did a full load there, he was having severe anxiety. So I had to pull him back out in eighth grade and go back to just homeschooling because the pressure was too much for him. And so we did our own curriculum at home, and he needed an environment that was very organized, very where he could go at his own pace. And for some reason for him, he eating every 2 hours was a key thing. So food, and we researched different ones that were better for his behavior and thinking ability. And so every 2 hours he ate, and he ate a lot of food. So a big part of my homeschooling was keeping his environment very organized and also feeding him a lot, especially as he got older.
Let's talk about that for a second, because that it's a good point that you brought that up, because this is something that I found as a public school teacher helped with some of the students that I taught in middle school and high school, is allowing them to eat a healthy snack or something,
Mhm.
or take a break and eat a
Yeah.
healthy snack, because it actually helps to give them some brain food,
Uh-huh.
to help them to focus and refocus and regenerate. And a lot of people don't realize that. But I allow that in my classroom, but a lot of schools don't allow that kind of stuff. But you found something that worked for him that has
Uh-huh.
actually, they've done some neuroscience research that's shown that it helps. So I think that's important for people to know that.
Um,
And the other thing is the organization. And it's
yes.
funny that you say that he was at Kingdom Preparatory, which is considered a private school here in the Lubbock area. And but when you brought him home, he needed that organization and structure that he really didn't get as much at Kingdom Prep. Do you think it's because they wanted them to be completely autonomous at that age of junior high, and he wasn't quite at that point, and he needed to have more of a guidance of structure?
I don't think it was the lack of structure at Kingdom Prep. I think it was the expectations there were so high.
Mhm.
Um, you had to have your shirt tucked in perfectly, and he was my free spirit kid. You know, he would get in trouble if his belt wasn't just right, or and
So
so
it's more other things than just that
yeah,
part of it.
yeah, it was a pressure of being so perfect.
Mhm.
That was really hard on him.
That's interesting that you say that. So this middle child of yours is now 24 years old, and he's the one that's in medical school, is that right?
Yes.
Right.
Mhm.
And so I just want people to hear that and
Yeah.
understand that he has ADHD. He was
Mhm.
diagnosed with ADHD, and you homeschooled him,
Mhm.
but now he's in medical school. So
Yes.
that's a huge thing because a lot of people with ADHD don't think that they can make it through high school, much less go on to college. And he's had to do a lot of college in order to get into medical school. So
Yes.
that comes with a lot of organization. You need
Yes.
to be very organized as an ADHD person in order to be able to do what he's doing right now.
Yes. And one of our challenges, I talked to him the other day because he had his first round of medical exams, and they accommodated him and let him have an empty room and do it in the room by himself. And they gave him extra time to do his medical school exams. And he said that really helped. But he said that many of the students, and I think there's about 100 he's at the University of Connecticut, and he said most of them have had a learning disability to work through. He said, "Mom, I think the really smart kids," which he is very smart too.
Mhm.
He said, "I think it's a common factor that we've all struggled with some kind of, and it may be social, either social or learning." But he did say that just having that organized environment, and he's kinda off this week since they don't have exams. So they had exams, they're off a week, and he said, "I forgot how hard it is for me not to have intense scheduled time." So when we homeschooled, we had to really load up the schedule. Even if it was, "You're gonna read for an hour," like, I just really had to have a schedule loaded up for him. He didn't know what to do with free time. That was really hard for him.
Well, let me ask you in the structured schedule that you have, and this is something that I've worked with many students with learning differences and their families to do is
Mhm,
to find that daily routine and that tight structure for them. Did
mhm,
you schedule in time for him? You did with the food because you had to take a break every so many hours.
mhm,
So you scheduled in, okay, we're going to work on this subject or we're going to work on school for 30 minutes or an hour, and then we're going to take a break, and then, or for 2 hours or however long you did it. And then we're going to take that much needed break that you need to take, and then we're going to come to it. But you actually scheduled that in for him.
yes, yes.
And
We
that's
had a very
important.
tight schedule. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm,
But that's what worked for him, and I think that's the
mhm,
key because this is something that I this is one of the things that I ask a lot of families that I've worked with is, "What is your daily routine?" And
mhm,
people are like, "Well, we get up, I grab my clothes, I get dressed,
mhm,
I brush my teeth, I grab something on the way out the door or whatever." That is not a daily routine.
no,
Or I come home from school and I play video games for 15 minutes or 30 minutes or however long, and then I might have a snack, and then sometime an hour or two later I'll do homework. And a lot of parents and families think that that's a routine. Well, they come home, they know they're going to do their
mhm,
homework, they have an hour in the evening to do but for somebody who's ADHD, that doesn't work for them.
no. No.
They have to have, I know from step 1 to step 2 to step 3 to step 4 what I'm doing. And
Yes.
what that seems to reduce the chaos in their
It
life,
does.
don't you think?
Yes. Yeah. Totally. But yeah, he reminded me of that too, because he said his mind is always going. And so he's got to know what the next thing is. It gives him a lot of peace, kind of
Yeah.
keeps him calm, knowing what's coming, knowing what he has to do, and then even seeing his progress. Like he loves to check off what he's done, and then he's already working on his next goals. Yeah.
And I think that that also helps with the procrastination part
Mhm.
that comes
Mhm.
in. And it's not just with ADHD people, it's with people that have dyslexia and there's other people that really struggle with procrastination motivation. And that's part of the key to it is because they don't have that structure and they don't know what they're gonna do from next to next to next, and they have so
Mhm.
many things to do on their plate,
Mhm.
but they don't have that checklist to check it off to go, "Oh, I accomplished this, this is done," and they can do it one step at a time because
Yes.
they don't have it structured out, and
Mhm.
so because they don't, then it's overwhelming, so they don't even start. They're like,
Exactly.
I've got, for an adult who's trying to go through medical school, if he didn't have that structured out, he probably even has, like, doing laundry structured out at
He
home and some
does.
things at home, and because if you don't know when you're gonna do the laundry or when you're gonna go to the grocery store or even order groceries or whatever you do, then you have to do those things, but it's not in your
Mhm.
schedule, and so
Yes.
then going back to try to figure out where to put it, it's like, "Forget it. I'm
Yes.
not gonna do it."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
do
And
you feel like um, that your youngest son sticks to that same type of schedule, or has that worked for him, or has something else worked for him?
yeah, that's interesting because he's a completely different kid.
Mhm,
Um, Nathan, our middle son, he is very compliant and low key. So it was harder for them to diagnose the ADHD because he wasn't really hyper. It's more of in his mind just keeps going. So because he was a good student, even at KPA, they just thought because he could sit well, it was harder to diagnose. Now, Noah is more of the hyper, I've got to be doing something. He's more strong willed. So that's looked totally different on our younger son and was easier to identify because I think it fit a little better, but it showed up more socially also, just not knowing how to. He gets overwhelmed in social situations, like when something is not going right, not knowing how to respond. Especially in elementary, he would not respond in the appropriate way. He might say something really impulsive and get in trouble. He just didn't realize social cues. Now Nathan was really good at he's a very social kid. Like he was very aware of people's feelings. He's very aware of social cues and Noah has not been. So that's been a whole different and he's, around more kids because one reason we decided to put him in school is because our older ones were so much older and he was the only one in the home. And I thought he needed some help social training. Like he needs to learn how to talk to people and what not to say when in that
uh-huh.
environment. So I think that's been good and it is more structured. Our home environment for Noah, I guess, so during the COVID time when we had to homeschool, I realized why I didn't choose that because the home environment, he couldn't focus. Where Nathan, even I organized and I'd have an area, Noah would still, I would come back in the kitchen where his area was and he would be outside. He couldn't stay in his environment and stay on task. Um, and I redirect, and we just end up fighting. So that was really, even with I'd list out his schedule, he wouldn't stick to it like Nathan did. So just not as disciplined in that.
Well,
Um,
I think this is really good that you have experienced. I mean, not you might not feel like so, but that you've experienced so different
Uh-huh.
reactions and responses from your children that have ADHD because, you know, and it's good for people to hear that because on one hand, I have worked with parents that were shocked to find out that their kid had a learning difference of ADHD because they were like your middle child. But
Yeah.
then I have seen parents that have struggled with a child like Noah, who they have hard time even getting them to do homework at home because of the once they hit that home environment, forget it. They're totally distracted with everything
Yeah.
around them.
Mhm.
Yeah. And so it's interesting that you say that because people need to know that you can't have 2 children in the same household and do the same thing, think that
Mhm.
it's gonna work and it doesn't. So
No.
so parents, please hear that. Don't expect that you have one child that has ADHD and another child and you can do the same thing with them because it's not gonna work. And it's not a parenting thing. It's not that
No.
that you haven't done everything that you need to do. It's just your
No.
child is different. And we have to
Mm.
remember that all of our kids are different. We're
Yes.
all individuals, even though we grew up in the same household. So a learning difference is going to be different for each of them. And
That's so
so, and
true.
how to work with them and find what works best with them is what you have to do. Because
Mhm.
me, well, each one of my children, all 4 of my children have had some type of learning difference, and 2 of them have dyslexia, and we went through that, and it was different
Mhm.
for both of them, and my youngest one, I tried homeschooling her, but she was like Noah. Her home environment was not the place to do home. I actually took her other places outside of the house to try to
I did
create
that
a
too.
study environment for her, and
Uh-huh.
it was not,
Mm-mm.
and my other kids that had dyslexia, well, one of them, I could do that with her, but not my youngest one. She needed a more structured environment in a school setting in order for
Yes.
her to be able to learn. And that's
Yes.
what you've done with Noah.
That's true. Yes. And for the sake of our relationship also, it's really good for us. It's good for him to be, and I am opposite of his personality. I am more creative and artsy, and I'm not the best at a rigid schedule. And so Nathan flowed with that more, but that's harder for Noah too. And so for the sake of our relationship, I thought school would also be better. So we're not having those arguments about just school tasks. One thing I like about his school is they have a study hall and they have another class that's like a coaching. And so he gets all of his homework done at school. So that's been
Awesome.
very helpful too, that when he is home, because he's exhausted too. Like, and when they're tired, I know for mine, with it's hard to manage him when he's tired or hungry. Again, back to the food. So when he gets home from school, he wants to be alone for a while and do nothing, no tasks. But I think that's part of just learning your child. I can't ask him anything important. We don't run errands. We don't do a lot of extra activities in the evenings, which we tried that and figured out that does not work. He's got to have that downtime. So he's intense and he'll go and he'll do it well and he's smart and athletic. But when he's done
Mhm.
and he's got to have a break. And if we don't give him that break, it won't be good. Like he will have
I'm
some emotional breakdown.
I'm so glad that you said that because that is so true, and I think parents often don't realize that with ADHD kids.
Mhm.
And quite honestly, the public school system, and I've even seen private schools do this
Mhm.
too, that they just insist on the homework and they
Mhm.
don't build in the time to let students have a space to just get their work done at school. And
Mhm.
honestly, homework does nobody any good for an ADHD child who's like Noah, or even one that's autistic or has dyslexia, they have given their all that they can give at school to focus and to do what they're asked to do at school. And once they leave that school building, that's it. They're done. And
They are.
don't ask him to come home and take a little bit of a break and then go back to it. Or
Mm-mm.
ask him to come home right after they get done at school to their safe environment where they feel like they can download and still do schoolwork. They
Mm-hmm.
just don't have it in them to give it. They just don't.
No,
And I
no,
mean, even honestly, Stephanie, don't you feel adults themselves are that way with ADHD?
I
Like you
do.
mentioned that your husband has
Mm-hmm.
ADHD. Do you feel like when your husband comes home from the office, like he's done? Like there are times
Mm-hmm.
where he's just done. We're not
Yeah,
going anywhere. We're not doing anything. I'm just done for the day.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
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 He is like that. And I mean, if you mix their personality, like you said earlier, each person is so different, but
Mhm.
he's such an introvert also. So he's also done socially. He's been on
Wow.
the phone. And so that took us a while in our marriage to work that out because I thought he would be socially available to me and he was
Yeah.
not. And
Yeah.
so we had to figure that out. But one thing that helps him, along with our sons, is we try to weekly look at the goals for the week. I know I talked to you about this. This has
Oh, yeah,
changed.
we did.
We talked about we'll look at priorities and goals because they really get like, especially my husband, he'll get so focused on tasks and getting that he'll forget the main priorities, like his values and his priorities and the big picture. So we've started meeting for about an hour on Wednesday nights just to look at that for our family. And that's made a huge difference because I realized, oh my gosh, he can't. It's very natural for me to stay on. I'm very visual and goal oriented, but I thought he gets caught up in the daily tasks and forgets the most important things. And I think the kids do too.
I think that's sometimes a male thing too, but not as much a male
Mhm,
thing as an ADHD thing that you're
mhm,
talking about here. I've worked with men and women that have ADHD, and it
mhm,
seems like that's more of a thing for males with ADHD than it is females with ADHD. I don't know
mhm,
why that is, but it just seems to
mhm,
be more so with them. But that's interesting. It's a good thing that you do that, the goal setting and be able to look at that with your husband. But do you also do this with Noah as well for school? Do you try to with school or is that a different situation?
We don't. We might do that in the summer, but pretty much with school, he just, he's staying on task with school and it's not as, but summertime when he has the free time, that's a whole nother
Mhm.
challenge. But we have to work on the calendar and goals and more of that.
Yeah. And that's interesting that you say that about the summertime and back to what you were saying originally about your middle child. He's off from school for a week. But now he's like, "Okay, I have this is what I do every day because 'cause I'm going to medical school and I have classes and I have rotations and I have this and I have that," and, all the stuff that that entails. And then, dealing with his personal life and what he has to do outside of that. But now all he has is for a week, "Okay, we have a break, but what do I do with that break?" And
Mhm,
so I think that parents need to think about you know, when a break is coming up for the holidays, a
mhm,
lot of people travel, they go see family over Thanksgiving. A lot of people are home during Christmas but to think about loading their kids' schedules up with
mhm.
things because I think I've heard I've heard stories from parents, that their
Oh,
their break was fiasco because their kid was just all over the place. They couldn't get things done or it was just this chaos that ensued and there was constant fighting. I just think that if parents can do that more, and a lot of people think,
Mhm,
well, I'm being too rigid or I'm being too hard. I'm being too, I don't think so. I think that they
mhm,
need to have, like, they need to
mhm,
know, like, even if parents go so far as this is what we're going to be doing every day, to at least give them an idea ahead of time and it's written down where they can see it. I
uh-huh,
think that's better than saying, "Oh, we're gonna go to Aunt Susie's house or grandma and grandpa's house, and we're gonna leave on such and such date, and you've gotta pack your clothes," and just telling them things they gotta do. They need to have it listed out
yes,
and when they need to do it so that
yeah,
it gives them, they don't have to hold it up here, because
yes,
what you had said before is very true about an ADHD person. Their brain goes like this all the time. It's on
yeah,
hyper mode all the
it
time.
is. Mhm, yeah,
And so, having that structure of and list of this is what I need to do, and the
yeah,
expectation is, especially during the holiday, it doesn't have to be, there's some parents that disagree with me about that, but I often wonder, is it just because they don't want to have something else they have to do?
maybe.
And
It's a big task.
really and truly,
Yeah,
I mean, if your son is in medical school, then the things that you worked hard with him on teaching him structure and organization when he was younger, he now as an adult has taken that on. So
mhm,
so if you can get your child before they get out of high school to
mhm,
learn to do some of these skills and
yes,
as a repetition, even though it seems, wearing sometimes on you
it
to have to
is.
do it, be repetitive and stuff, but the goal ultimately is for our child to be autonomous and to be
Yes,
able to move on as an adult to do the things that they need to do for themselves. So these tools, these resources, these things that you're doing with
mhm,
Noah and you've done with your other child, even with your husband, you've realized what works, and so these
mhm,
are the things that works to help them.
mhm, yes,
If parents would learn to do some of these things now and these
mhm,
resources and explain to their child, I'm just trying to help you to find what works for you that will help
yes,
you to be autonomous and to be able to
mhm,
do it on your own. And I
mhm,
think sometimes parents just they just say, "You have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this," and kids
uh-huh,
that are like Noah are like, no, because you said that I'm gonna have to do it, and you're
right,
telling me I have to do it, they don't wanna do it." But
right,
if you can teach them that I'm just trying to give you resources and tools
mhm,
and show you different ways to do things in order for you to be able to take it on and handle it yourself.
mhm, yes,
Uh,
and
do you
that's the
think that
goal. Yes, I think that's the goal, especially not we talked about not creating that codependency, which is
Mhm.
very easy to do
It is, it's
because
very
and so, but one key thing, like you said, is writing it down and then holding them responsible. Did you look at
mhm.
your calendar or go look at even my husband? Remember, we wrote your priorities. Go look at those again instead of asking me 100 times because it is hard on a parent or a spouse. It's tiring. You know, that personality is so intense or this learning disability that it can really wear on you. But if you start well, just go look at the calendar. I taped it on your door. And like you said about holidays, I've already been working on that all week because I will get stressed like, oh boy. And then I think parents have guilt like, well, a lot of parents are so excited about traveling or the holidays. But for someone with ADHD, in the family, it's stressful to travel. It's stressful to be out of your environment. It's stressful to be, like you said, just going to aunt. We don't know how long we're staying. And so you're right. If you can list that out in as much detail, and I'll tell Noah, this might fluctuate a little bit, but these are the main things that are going to happen. Or you need to go to the gym 2 hours. Now you can either go in the morning because with his strong will, he does wanna make some of those decisions, And so I'll do you want to go in the morning or in the afternoon? He can help me make the schedule because he might want to sleep in.
Right.
So that does help. But once you set it, just put it on their door and say, remember, you said this, or, you help make that decision, or you go look at your calendar. And so we're trying not to create that codependency so they can be autonomous, especially as they do get, he's 13. So I'm really trying to help him because I will say, Noah, some days aren't totally structured. We've got to be able to handle that without losing your temper. How can we do that?
That's really good that you're asking him to think about things for himself because honestly, as the parent, we can go, well, I think you need to do this, but that may
Mhm.
not inside of him work for him. And so,
Right.
what does work for you? So, trying different things and asking them to be accountable for making
Mhm.
some of those decisions. Well, okay, we're going to put this on the schedule and we're going to do this. But if it doesn't work out, then they have taken part in some of that decision and
Mhm.
I think it helps them to feel like they're not being just told to do this or
Yes.
that or whatever,
Yes.
but making them to have understand that they have accountability in making those decisions themselves and what works and what doesn't work. And it's so good that you're doing that with him at this age because I have worked with adults that have managed to get through high school and they get to college and they just hit this wall because they have had mom and dad just tell them to do this, 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 this. They've managed somehow to just organize how they could,
Mhm.
and they got through high school, but then they get to
Mhm.
college and they have to do everything for themselves. They have to
Mhm.
figure out how to do their laundry and feed themselves, and, I mean, they don't have mom and dad there to give them that support and to say, "Did
Mhm.
you do this? Did you do that? Did you do this?" And then they get to college and they're totally lost. They are
Yes.
just because
Yeah.
they don't know how to structure things well. They've
Right.
always had somebody there to tell them what they needed to do or whatever.
Mhm.
So what you're doing with Noah, I think that's a great point, is that you're kind of putting it on him. You're helping him, but you're also putting it in his ballpark, so to speak, to have to
Mhm.
take accountability and learn what
Mhm.
that is right now. Because when he gets into high school, that's gonna be a totally different thing than what he's dealing with in junior high right now too.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah. That's such a good point. And even there, if they take medicines, I mean, at some point, like you said, in college, I know many kids that they didn't keep their appointments, they didn't keep taking their medicine, and so that has to be at some point something they take responsibility for, and then we
Yeah.
just check on them. It's so
If you can do that now as they get older, it's better. I've
Mhm.
worked with kids that, they get to high school and their parents have been telling them to take their medication or whatever and reminding them and just doing it, going through the motions with them. Mom and dad always take care of that. And they get to high school and parents want to kind of just let them, you know, take care of that self because they're old enough now they should be able to do it, but it doesn't really work that way with an
no.
ADHD kid. You have to make sure you've given them the tools and resources, um,
Yes.
ahead of time before they get that far along. You can't just go, "Oh, well, I'm just dropping everything in your lap right at this moment." You
Yeah.
know, they have to
Yeah.
be able to have that that
Uh-huh.
that structure. I have worked with some of the people that I have worked with, the parents have come because they have tried some of the things that you've done, but then nothing seems to work. Nothing
Mhm.
seems to, and they hit a roadblock. And so what I've done is just gone through with students and said, okay, well, let's try this. Have you
Mhm.
tried this before? Do you
Mhm.
think that would work for you? Because back to the everybody's different thing,
Mhm.
some people don't work well with an agenda to carry around. They,
That's true.
some people work well with a digital device, a list, a task
Mhm.
list. some people with ADHD, they have to have something stuck on their mirror in their bathroom or on their desk or on the refrigerator or even in all those places so they remember what
Very
they
true.
have to do. So they have
Mhm,
that focus. It's right in front of their face all the time. So there's lots of different resources, there's lots of
yeah,
different tools.
mhm,
I think I think the most important thing about the conversation we've had today would be that not everybody with ADHD is the same, and so don't treat them the same.
mhm,
Be willing to look for those things that help them the best. And there's lots of different resources out there. There's lots of different things that you can do. Don't just go, oh, well, this has worked with this one child and we're going to do this. And keep
mhm,
making it a point of trying to stick with it and it's eventually going to take. It doesn't work
mhm,
that way.
mhm.
You have to be willing to look for other things and be willing to talk to other people.
Yes.
Look for other parents. Look for other people that have ADHD and ask them, what
Mhm,
have they done? What has worked with you or for you? Because there may be something that they've tried that you've never even heard of before or you never even
mhm,
thought about before that
mhm,
works well with them, that would work well with you. So
mhm,
just be willing and open to continue to look for those things and those
mhm,
resources and be willing to have the patience, I think. I think
mhm.
that's the biggest key, don't you?
I
Do
do.
you think that's one of the
Yes,
biggest keys is
yes.
to be patient? And I
Yeah.
would say for parents out there, please look for resources, look for communities, look for other people that you can talk to. Don't feel like you're all alone out there because you certainly are not all alone out there. There are a lot of other parents that are walking the walk that you walk, and it helps. Don't you think it helps to have somebody else to kinda talk to and go, "Okay, I've tried this, I haven't tried this, and this is what I'm going through," and just to be able to talk about it.
Yes, I agree. We need support and community for sure. That's
Yeah,
made a huge difference for me. Yeah,
yeah, and your son goes to private school right now,
he
so
does. Mhm.
do you feel like you have a community within the school or just outside?
I really don't. I don't. That's kinda hard to find or has been at the private Christian school. So, it's been probably more of my homeschool community and our Christians friends where I have found just talking about our struggle, and then I find out, oh, they have someone in their family.
Your family?
Uh-huh. That's kinda how it's developed. But also online and talking to you and finding resources. We've reached out for help. We've gone to Brain Balance and they've all led us to other resources, which has been amazing. So,
So really the key is just keep looking and
uh-huh.
trying and just don't
Mhm,
give up. Just
mhm,
don't give
mhm.
up.
I agree because it can be very hard
Yeah.
and you feel alone because, I'll talk to other parents that I just feel like, oh, we go to Six Flags and we go to Main Event and we love to travel and we look forward to the holidays. And then I'll feel like, oh, I feel sad that that's hard for us, and it'll make me kind of feel alone. Like those things are harder, the overstimulation and the lack of structure and then the people don't really understand because especially if your kid looks normal and acts normal,
Yeah.
um, they don't know what you're going through. And so you do kind of feel different when you say, well, we have more fun when we stay home. It works better.
Yeah.
But
I mean if it works well for you and it works better for you, that's the best
yeah,
thing. But
yeah,
but I totally get that too because 'cause I've been on that side of it. But you just have to enjoy and what you have and the time that you have and the quality of time you have rather than where you've gone or where you can do or
yeah,
you just enjoy that, and that's just the life with that child. It's just
it is. It
it's just
is.
that way. But I
It
will
is.
tell you, I think that as they get older, though, and their brain develops more, that it
Mhm.
does change some for them. It
Mhm.
does, and like we said, just learning the skills and the resources now that they can take into adulthood, it does change for them, and they can learn to manage and cope with their
Yeah.
emotions and their feelings and regulate them more as they get older and there's an adult and they've experienced things. And once I've
Mhm.
experienced like, even in the school setting of how to regulate their emotions better in social situations and
Mhm.
how to cope with those overwhelming feelings, then going to Disneyland or doing some of those things and travel is a little bit better for them.
Yeah.
But they
Mhm.
have to just, as they get older, learn those things, and
Mhm.
your job as a parent right now is just to kinda help them to learn those skills and what works best
Mhm.
and think about those things as they get older, and trust
Mhm.
me, I've had that experience, but, we've as now that all my children are adults, it is better. Maybe we're taking trips now that and doing things now that I wish we'd done when they were younger, but, it's okay. It's just what it is, you
And you
know?
probably couldn't have done it when they were younger.
Mm,
It would have
mm,
been not as enjoyable.
no, it's
We
been miserable for everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and we are starting to see that. Like, we did take Noah to Six Flags last year, and I said, "He did good," but the key was because he will wander one way and my husband will wander another way. Well, I can't go, so we need to have at least 4 people. We've just learned,
What
everyone needs a
works?
partner. Yes.
That's so funny. Well, Stephanie, I thank you so much for coming on here today
Yeah.
and talking with me and sharing and visiting. And I hope that all of those out there that have listened and get to listen to this podcast, that it will help you to see you are not alone in this situation, and that you're not crazy, that you may have a child that has a learning difference and then another one that has the same thing, but just processes different, and then that's okay. And it's okay for you to do different things with them. And so I think it's really important for us to have the conversation we did today, and that it's going to help other people and other parents out there, and even students, even adult students possibly listen to this. So if this broadcast and this podcast today has touched you, has helped you, and you think of anybody out there that would need to hear this, please pass it on, because that's what the whole idea behind doing this podcast and having these conversations is about, is to make somebody not feel alone in walking through what they're walking through with their children with learning differences. We are glad that Stephanie joined us. I'm so glad that you
Thank
got
you
to
for
be with
having
us
me.
today. And thank y'all for listening, and have a blessed week.
Mhm.
Until
Yes.
next time.
Okay, bye.